American actor Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Orokowa, were tragically found dead in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home, sending shockwaves through the entertainment world. As news of Hackman's death broke, authorities immediately launched a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding the couple's passing. What initially appeared to be a natural and straightforward case, Hackman was 95 and had lived a long, accomplished life, soon took a darker turn as investigators uncovered unsettling details. The scene was deemed suspicious enough to warrant a comprehensive inquiry, and as more evidence came to light, serious questions began to emerge. Were there external factors involved? Was something being kept from the public? The first signs of inconsistency arose when Hackman's daughter, Leslie Ann Allen, made a public statement shortly after his death on February 26, 2025. She assured the world that her father had been in excellent health, engaging in Pilates and yoga regularly, and showed no signs of concern. But her certainty would soon be challenged by facts that told a very different story. While she claimed to be close to her father, Leslie later admitted that she hadn't actually spoken to or seen her parents in months. Living in California while they resided in New Mexico, she had no recent contact to confirm the state of their well-being. Yet, she continued to insist that everything had been fine, raising eyebrows and prompting suspicion. Further investigation revealed that Betsy Orokowa, aged 65, had died days before her husband. Her cause of death was identified as hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare and deadly illness transmitted through rodent droppings. Alarming as that was, it was what followed that truly deepened the mystery. Hackman was believed to have been alive for a full week after Betsy's passing, alone in their home. According to the autopsy, there was no sign of foul play, his heart had simply given out. However, his Alzheimer's had progressed to such an advanced stage that it's likely he didn't even comprehend what had happened to his wife or fully understand his own deteriorating condition. The contradiction between Leslie and Allen's statements and the reality uncovered by investigators drew public attention. If she truly knew her father's health, why had she so confidently claimed he was doing well? And why had she stayed silent or avoided further clarification when her statements were proven false? Instead of stepping forward, Leslie appeared to retreat from the public eye. Her first appearance following the tragedy was a quiet outing with her sister Elizabeth at a Denny's restaurant in Burbank, California, hardly the public reassurance many were hoping for. Those who had been close to Gene Hackman in his final months began sharing their accounts, and their recollections painted a very different picture. The once powerful and commanding actor had become frail and forgetful, his memory loss growing increasingly severe. Betsy had reportedly taken on the full responsibility of caregiving, managing his medications, scheduling doctor visits, and keeping their lives in order while shielding him from the public eye. Her death left Hackman vulnerable and alone, unable to process or respond to the devastating loss. As more details emerge, the story of Gene Hackman's final days has shifted from a peaceful passing to a complex and tragic tale full of unanswered questions. What exactly was Leslie hiding? And why did she insist everything was fine when it clearly wasn't? For fans of In the final years of Gene Hackman's life, his health had clearly been in decline, something that made Leslie and Allen's confident claims about his supposed perfect health all the more puzzling. The deeper investigators delved, the stranger the situation became. Reports surfaced that Betsy Orokowa, Hackman's wife, had abruptly stopped communicating with her mother and other family members by October of the previous year. Initially, no one thought much of it. Betsy had always valued her privacy. But as the months passed and she remained silent, some relatives began to fear that something wasn't right. Leslie's behavior also drew concern. Despite asserting that she was close to her father, she hadn't spoken to him in months. She hadn't visited or checked in, even as he and Betsy grew more reclusive. It appeared that both women, one a caregiver and the other claiming deep connection, had disconnected completely from the outside world. As word of Hackman's passing spread, public curiosity only grew. The authorities stated that they were conducting a thorough investigation. Though Hackman's cause of death had been identified, too many questions remained unanswered, fueling speculation and suspicion. A press conference held by the sheriff's office offered some clarity. Officials reassured the public that no foul play had been detected, at least not at that point in the investigation. They detailed Hackman's declining health, Betsy's sudden illness, and the series of unfortunate events that had led to their deaths. Still, many felt the full story had yet to be told. One of the earliest oddities discovered in the Hackman residence was the body of one of their dogs. At first, confusion arose when early reports misidentified the animal, leading to uncertainty about whether it belonged to the couple. Once it was confirmed to be their pet, investigators began asking more pointed questions. Had the dog died of natural causes, or was something more sinister at work? Another focal point was Hackman's medical history. While he had lived largely out of the spotlight in his later years, certain incidents were well known, particularly a serious bicycle accident in 2012. Struck by a car in Florida, he was thrown off his bike and reportedly suffered only minor injuries. But as many know, the long-term effects of such trauma can sometimes remain hidden for years. Given Hackman's age, could complications from that incident have contributed to his eventual passing? Forensic investigators also discovered a minor gas leak in the home. While exposure to gas, even in small amounts, can cause symptoms like dizziness, confusion, and eventually unconsciousness, authorities later ruled it out as a contributing factor. The leak wasn't significant enough to cause harm, and no carbon monoxide was found in the residence. So the mystery deepened once more. Perhaps the most troubling discovery came near Betsy Orokowa's body: scattered pills. Their presence immediately raised questions. Were these part of her prescribed medications? Had she been taking them regularly, or was there another, more troubling explanation for why they were found in such disarray? The answers to these questions only added layers of complexity to an already disturbing case. Understanding Gene Hackman's final days requires a look into how he spent his later years. Unlike many of his Hollywood peers, Hackman had completely stepped away from acting. His final film, Welcome to Mooseport, was released in 2004. In a memorable interview with Larry King, he spoke openly about aging, saying, "I have the normal fear of passing away." Though he largely retreated from public life, he hadn't vanished entirely. He made a surprise cameo in 2008 on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, showcasing a local eatery on the Food Network. Hackman had quietly settled in Santa Fe, New Mexico, with Betsy, focusing on writing and his personal interests. His final public appearance was in March 2024, when he was seen leaving a seafood restaurant called Papao. Dressed in an olive green gilet, matching trousers, sneakers, and a cap, Hackman leaned on a cane as he exited. Though he appeared frail, he still carried himself with the same quiet dignity that had defined his career. That sighting would be the last time the world saw Gene Hackman alive. In retrospect, Leslie and Alan's insistence that everything was perfectly fine seemed increasingly implausible. Her absence from the public eye following her father's death only deepened suspicions. But despite public speculation, authorities found no evidence linking her to any wrongdoing. There was no indication that she, or anyone, was suspected of foul play. The final verdict on Hackman's death pointed to natural causes, complications from hypertension and atherosclerosis, both common at his age. Still, the tragic and unusual circumstances surrounding the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Orokowa continue to raise lingering questions about isolation, secrecy, and what really happened in the quiet corners of their Santa Fe home. Cardiovascular disease appears to be the primary cause behind Gene Hackman's passing. As of now, all evidence points toward natural causes or an unfortunate accident, nothing that suggests criminal activity. However, early misleading statements from his daughter, Leslie and Alan, only fueled speculation. Her decision to avoid the public eye once the truth surfaced further intensified public curiosity. What we do know is this: Gene Hackman was found dead in his Santa Fe home on February 26, 2025. Still, people couldn't help but wonder what had really happened behind those closed doors. One possibility is that Leslie simply didn't know the truth. She had already admitted that she hadn't spoken to her father in several months. If she wasn't in regular contact, she may have assumed everything was fine. After all, Hackman had always been a private man. He and his wife, Betsy Orokowa, lived quietly in the mountains outside Santa Fe, tucked away on a 12-acre property they had chosen for its seclusion. Friends described their relationship as one of deep love and mutual respect. The couple wasn't fond of modern communication. Orokawa reportedly avoided cell phones and used email only when necessary. So, when they went silent, it wasn't immediately cause for alarm. But this time, the silence ended in tragedy. There's also the possibility of denial. Sometimes people convince themselves that everything is okay simply because they aren't ready to face the alternative. Maybe Leslie wanted to believe her father was still the same independent, spirited man she had always known. She may have imagined him still enjoying his routines and hobbies, refusing to accept the signs of aging and decline. Many people tell themselves such things, especially when they haven't been physically present to see the truth unfold. Another theory is that she was trying to protect his privacy. Gene Hackman had stepped away from Hollywood and never looked back. He avoided the spotlight and valued his personal space. Perhaps Leslie felt it was her duty to preserve that. If she had admitted he was in poor health, the media might have descended on their peaceful retreat. By saying he was in good health, she may have been trying to keep the cameras away. But her claims went beyond vague reassurances. She confidently stated that he was doing Pilates and yoga several times a week. That level of detail is what made her statement so questionable. Had she simply said she hadn't spoken to him recently and wasn't sure of his current condition, it would have made sense. But by speaking with such certainty, she opened herself up to doubt. Some believe she may have been trying to protect herself. Admitting to not checking in on her aging father could have drawn criticism. By insisting he was fine, she may have been trying to avoid those uncomfortable questions. Alternatively, maybe she was simply misinformed. Perhaps someone else told her he was doing well, and she believed it. Still, that doesn't explain why she presented her knowledge as first-hand. Her words ultimately didn't match reality, and when the truth emerged, people were left questioning whether it was a simple misunderstanding or something more intentional. Despite their privacy, Hackman and Orokawa were not unfriendly. Friends described them as warm and welcoming when you were part of their inner circle. They loved hosting small gatherings at their home, where Hackman would often ask Betsy to play classical piano pieces. In turn, she supported his creative work and passions wholeheartedly. Hackman lived humbly, far removed from the glitz of Hollywood. He preferred quiet, meaningful interactions over red carpets and premieres. Betsy, who co-founded a home decor store in Santa Fe, brought handcrafted beauty to the local community. Their life together revolved around shared passions, art, music, nature, and a love for the simple things. Even at 95, Hackman remained relatively active. He had reportedly continued riding his bicycle until just a year before his passing. The news of their deaths was a heavy blow to those who knew them. Hackman was far more than an Academy Award-winning actor. He was a writer, an artist, a history enthusiast, and a philanthropist. His generosity was well known. He frequently donated his artwork to charity events. In Santa Fe, he and Betsy were more than celebrities, they were neighbors and contributors to the local art scene. As tributes pour in from friends and fans alike, the couple's quiet influence continues to resonate. They may have chosen to live away from the spotlight, but their impact on those around them remains powerful. Still, the mystery surrounding Hackman's death lingers for many. Was this simply a peaceful end to a long, full life, or is there more that we don't yet know? What do you think? Was this a case of natural decline and isolation, or is there something deeper left to uncover? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're interested in more stories like this one, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video on your screen, you won't want to miss it.